That's what I would do. I would leave one at every specific place from one to the other.
Right. Then
I always want to That's what I do. One in the bathroom.
Make sure you're being seen. Mallory is here.
I was so glad when that training got switched. I was getting so much pressure. Like they're like, "You're not going. You're not going." I'm like,
yeah, I
"Then
think I'm
I'm
still
not doing
175s, but I
realized I was like, I don't want to be stuck in the middle.
I need to be a 2, so I might
Yeah.
be a 2.
And so that's why I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
because I really did not want to have to do it in the summertime because then I have to do it for daycare and I don't get paid at the same time. Like it's not a.
So I'm just.
But I mean, I would have done it, but it was
No, it
much
was
better.
it was a good fix.
I
Because
just
of
don't
all
know why they planned it that day to start with.
I used to wear glasses.
Because like everybody was in the middle of testing.
Yeah.
I don't know what the thought process
Me too,
there
but now
was.
I know if I went,
It's
I
alright.
need to go
It's
back to the
changed.
dentist.
It's all good.
then
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
You got the new
Yeah, the
dentist,
dentist is
right?
gonna tell me you
Yeah.
need glasses.
And I've accepted
The
them
eye
all. They're on
doctor
my
is,
calendar.
Okay, good.
I probably should, but then I know I'll end up with multiples.
Yeah.
You know, and not that I can't have those, I don't really care if it works, but right now these work and they're cheap and I don't feel like
Don't feel like going to the
300
doctor either.
I tried the progressives.
Oh, okay.
Oh my
How
God.
No?
I couldn't see out of them at all.
Okay.
The distance was not horrible, but there was like one tiny little sweet spot. So anything you want to look at, you can't like use your eyes. You got to turn your head. And then I couldn't see anything looking down. Nothing.
Yeah, so for me, I can see distance fine. It's
So,
just up close.
Me too.
I was
And
telling
small.
them earlier,
Small
I'm not
is fine.
exactly sure how many are coming. Lindsay, the 2 guys, they're in the middle of testing right now, so they can't come. They have class, like their schedule's all off. Shonda and Brittany, both at Phoenix, are sick with flu symptoms, and so we're like,
don't want to
Stay home.
no way. They're getting taken care of right now. So Mallory, you might have to join us.
Oh, I like them. That's fine. I can move over one.
And Elizabeth or Kim, we might have one of you guys switch because we're gonna do the 3 different modules. We don't want you guys sitting together doing the same modules. That makes sense?
Okay.
So then that way you'll
So
be an expert.
Oh, perfect. I was about to move, but I like that better.
Well, and I'll help you out. You know, if someone else.
Willie
Oh,
so
Ken
we'll do 1,
by
2, and 3.
Yeah, I still think we should do that,
Okay.
and then like I'll join in or help,
Okay.
or someone might still.
Okay, this is
Come
it?
Well, we don't
Maybe.
know. We don't know. That's
We're not
why.
quite sure. And the schedule did say 4 from 3 to 4 today.
Yeah, so let's go. Let's
So, yeah.
keep
Yeah,
rolling
and
because
we
I gotta
got
go.
a lot to do, and honestly, the lot to do is on you, but we're here to support, so that way you get really good at it. So I'll just quickly say the agenda is here, and then this is what you guys are going to be doing with our support. Is I'm going to give you a quick overview of the module, and then we're going to take that deeper dive. We're going to look at investigation 1, and I've done some cheat sheets, if you will, and we'll introduce those, get your thoughts on it because of that one time when we did that 9.1, you guys liked it. It doesn't quite look like that, but let me just show you what I did, and then you guys, again, give feedback, because the idea here is for you guys to be successful, not me, right? And so that's why I'm trying to come up with some stuff. So what we're going to do is we said mix it up. You guys already did it. We just want different schools at the tables, just for the fact that what we're going to do on that deeper dive is we're going to look at investigation 1, and it has 3 parts. So each table is going to look at a different part. And what we did was we created a Google Doc that has questions on it that you guys as groups are going to fill them out online. And so then that way you'll always have access to it. And then we're going to add to that Google Doc the next investigation, the next investigation. And then you're going to actually do the active part, so get the materials out, try to collect some data, so that way you have data, we have the student sheets, and even if you just put in some of these, so then that way teachers, you guys will have data, so when students are doing it, you're like, and they're getting 5 newtons, and you're like thinking something's wrong, because it should be 0.2 newtons, right? So you guys will get it, you know, there's 3 trials, it's not going to take you long to do these trials and things like that. And then what we're going to do is we start the key points for this module, so you can do this as a class and keep adding to it. So after investigation 1, those are the key points. And then finally, what we want you to do is kind of give what we call the elevator speech, talk about your part. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so pretty quickly, what this this module is about, electromagnetic force. There's 4 investigations. Kids start off with figuring out what a force is. They learn how to use spring scales, how to read newtons. They learn that a push or a pull, if you have the same object, uses the same force. So that's not always intuitive for students. Then they move into talking about magnets. They talk about the properties of magnets, include the magnetic field, talk about the force of magnetism. From there they move to that understanding to electromagnetism, permanent, induced, and things like that, and what you can do with electromagnetism. And then they end it with energy transfer. So it's pretty straightforward. As far as materials, you'll like it a lot better. It's less as far as the setup, in my opinion. But
the cleanup was the cleanup.
I
is what
agree.
took forever,
Good point.
the washing the dishes.
Good point. So you won't have that in this,
Yeah.
right? So the only place where you might have a little extra setup is when they're doing the electromagnets, and then you've got the wires and things like that. So that's how this goes. The other thing, okay, so let me show you what and Shannon worked on this too, so I don't want to take the credit for it.
Did we set up that Google Drive yet? Maybe I just wasn't included, or?
Is it in?
We did not include it.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's perfect.
No, the Google Drive folder is linked to the pacing guide. This is not in it yet, but there are some documents in there already.
All right. So take a minute, just kind of quickly look at this. So again, this is what I call the cheat sheet, if you will. Call it what you want. In color, this is also. Did we link this? Because this is.
I have not linked it yet because I wasn't sure if we needed to change.
So
making tweaks.
it doesn't look as nice in black and white. So in color, when it says part 1, I put in blue all the vocab, and I've already put them up. So like part 1, there's the vocab. Part 2 and part 3. So you kind of get an idea. The equipment they learn about is spring scales, force, interactions. Kinetic energy is started. They don't have a good grasp of it yet, and then just so you know, kinetic energy is going to come out again in gravity and kinetic energy. And then friction comes out in 2, and then in 3 they get it to net force. All right, so just to kind of sometimes the vocab gives you a pretty good idea of what the unit's about. All right, so that tells you what it is. The other thing we did was we even broke it down to give you an idea of the number of days. So if you look at it, investigation 1, part 1 is going to take 2 class days. As you know, you may not know this because I don't think chemical interactions broke it up like this. So you're going to find some pretty cool differences in electromagnetic. It's their latest version, and so it breaks it into session. Each session is 45 minutes. Right? And so because you guys have 90, that's kind of how we planned it. With the idea that the readings, we've put in time for you to actually do the readings in class. We definitely recommend it. It doesn't always work out. You may not always have to do that, but then because of that, that gives you some fluff time there. So depending, but like, including the readings in a class is good, and then if you do, what's a strategy you use and things like that.
And you'll see that the investigation 1.1 starts with session 2. That's because session 1 was the survey, that whole, like the pre-test for the whole entire unit. So we just took that out and then started it with the session 2. So that was 45 minutes that we could take out.
So we're not doing the pre-test.
That's the FOSS pre-test.
Right, we're not doing
No,
that. Okay.
because you can't put it in IA
Right.
or power
Right.
school assessment because it's open-ended.
Yeah.
It is in the folder if you want to give it paper pencil, but it is there. Or you could put the questions up in Google Classroom or just have a discussion about
You
it.
could use it for an exit slip. I think there's
They're great questions.
There's great questions, and I think there's opportunities that you could use them. But just so you know, that survey is going to include the entire module, right? So when you're thinking of that, if you want to use it, just make sure it's specific to that investigation. Then if you turn it over on the back, this will give you like some of the tips that you might need to know ahead of time. You can find all this in your investigation guide, but we just put it all in one place. So for example, in 1.1, you have the spring scales, and you have to put the force markers on there. Once you do it, you're done, but it just shows you that. And then in 1-2, when they do friction, if you don't have alternative surfaces in your room, like carpet or your table or other things, then it just says gather some things for that part. So for example, I put cardboard.
And that was in the kit, wasn't it? Oh, that was in the box of
This
the
was just
books.
in the box. You got aluminum foil. I bought sandpaper. You get this in chemical interactions, so you could actually put that on the table, see if it has an effect. So be creative. Don't go out and buy anything, but they do give you a surface to do the first investigation on, and then the idea is when you bring in friction, what causes friction. So like I said, this has carpet. You might want to bring in a piece of material, felt, whatever, but you don't have to because I'm sure you can find different areas in your room that kids can do it. So just kind of showing you that if you do, just gather materials. And then we indicated what page and what section it was on, just so then you could go through that. So.
How does that sheet look? Good. I can add it to the Google Drive folder. It's not there yet. And again, on the color copy in the paragraph, the vocabulary words are in blue.
Are in blue. So then you know right away what the vocab words are.
There's also another document in there too, with other tips and tricks. That was started.
I don't know. So again, give us some feedback on that. If you want to give it to Shannon, let us know if there's something else that you find might be helpful. The other thing is it's made so you can add to it because you might find a trick or a tip or something in that investigation. What I put in there is things that you probably need to do. It's not really a tip or a trick per se. It's a more, what do you need to do to plan or prep or something like that, just to kind of bring that out. And that's.
So we're spending 2 weeks basically on just investigation 1, right? As far as like the time frame goes, like
It's 8
4
days.
classes.
8 days.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So almost 2 weeks.
Because the semester will start on the 30th. So it's the Tuesday, Wednesday, then Thursday, Friday.
Right, and then that Friday, the next Friday,
We'll start
the other one.
And then, just so you know, we've kind of mapped out, but it's not mapped out enough to be specific, like where it says sessions like that, we think that's helpful, is investigation 2, you're not gonna do all of investigation 2, just so you know.
Right.
And then investigation 3, and then investigation 4. There's parts of those that you won't do at all. So it will be very manageable, because then you'll move into gravity, it'll be the same thing, and then you'll move into waves.
So we're doing this entire book and then going to the next one. 'Cause
Yeah,
I know
we're
you
not
said
gonna split.
before you were going to bounce
Yeah,
back and forth. So
we thought about it, we just thought it was, from the student perspective, they wouldn't know.
Right.
But from the teacher perspective, we felt like that might be too much.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that next year, if you feel like the way it fits in would be better, because just to give you an idea, this starts talking about kinetic energy. It doesn't talk about potential. Potential comes out in gravity and kinetic energy, and then acceleration and things like that. So just so you know, this is really all about right there is produce forces, friction, net force. And then acceleration, gravity, and all those things will come out in gravity and kinetic energy, and they'll continue talking about
Did we take it so you can get better?
kinetic energy, and then they'll also talk about potential energy.
Okay.
So, if you guys felt like, oh, we really want investigation 1 to fit.
Yeah.
That's
Because in the
something
past we talk about kinetic and potential at the same time.
Right.
But with
But
this, you don't.
And it's not
Yeah.
necessary that you do that, and again, and a lot of it is if they felt that it was, they would have done it, but we're not saying you can't. We just don't think it's a good thing to do
it's fine.
this
I
year.
was
Does
just
that
making
make
sure I knew
right?
what to do.
Because believe me, we had
I
a lot of conversation about that. We kept going back and forth, and we're like, let's make it right for you guys.
Yeah.
And like I
I
said,
like
because
that
the
better.
kid's not gonna know one way or the other.
Where the materials are coming from.
Yeah.
But you guys, right? We don't want that.
Do you guys have your boxes?
Yes.
Okay.
Both
Everybody
sets.
has the gravity.
Okay.
Because this one has 2 and the other one just has 1 drawer.
One,
Yeah.
correct.
We have everything for the year now.
Yes.
No.
No, you
No,
got
waves.
We got waves last year.
I have waves.
Some
some
did.
did.
Some did.
And waves is
Oh,
only
okay.
one box, too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, good. Because I'm trying to find places to keep these boxes.
Yeah.
Chemical interaction was the big.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah, it is. But if you think about it, that's all
Right,
chemistry.
right.
When you add the boxes together, chem and physics are probably the same as far as number of boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But then that adds up. That's a
And
lot of
we're,
boxes. So we get that.
Gravity is here.
Okay.
So
you don't have to take it today. Like,
Next time.
Next time.
Okay.
Or in 2 days.
Or you take it today.
Oh, where is it?
Behind
It's over there.
Mr. Riddle.
Is it a lot?
One box and then 2 boxes,
Of the
just like the
books.
readers.
Okay.
2 boxes of those.
We can
All
walk
right.
out to the car with you. Yeah.
So,
Alright.
our plan, alright, so
Two.
what you guys are gonna do, did you share,
I just took 4 boxes.
Shannon, the Google Doc? So, she's gonna share the Google Doc with you.
My
And so
computer's
what it
being
does
used.
is it asks a series of
Go stand in
questions
front of it.
for you to complete. So we actually want you
You know
to
where I
type in the Google Docs. So then that way, do you guys care which ones you do?
No.
1, 1, 2, 1, 3? The
No.
only difference is, this kind of gives you an idea, you guys understand the content enough, you're smart enough that you can probably potentially figure out what they do. If you have questions, let me know. So if we just do 1.1, you guys do 0.2, and you guys do 0.3. We want you to come up here, like I said, grab the sheets and actually fill them out, because then what we're gonna do is Shannon's gonna take pictures of the data and then put them up in the doc. So again, now you guys know what the data should look like, and fill them out. There'll be plenty of materials because we don't have 32 kids. So even if you use the same materials in both or all the investigations, you'll be fine.
No, this isn't it. I was just looking. She's sharing it. I think.
I believe
So
it's-
there are
There are teaching
PowerPoints,
slides.
right?
Yep.
Okay.
So there's teaching slides, there's teacher prep videos. The teaching slides have 2 versions, a PDF version, which obviously are very difficult to edit, but there's also the PowerPoint version, which are much easier, in my opinion, to edit than Active Inspire. And so you can
yeah, I
edit
don't use
any of those. The teaching slides are pretty straightforward, so feel free to edit, add, and modify them to your liking, but you really don't need to if you don't want to. So they're already done for you, so that's a nice thing. And
Where
like
do
I
we find the slides on the FOSS website?
so if you always go to the resources by
Okay.
investigation,
Yep.
they will be identified. Let me show you
Yep.
2 places because maybe you want to download them all.
They're also on the CIA website.
Yeah, I
can go-
saw them on the
Or
CIA
you can
website
go
already.
to the teaching slides and then
Uh-huh.
you'll find all of
Okay.
them, right? So depending on what you want. And so just go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. No, if you go to the pacing guide, you click on the 30th,
Mhm.
you'll open up the EF, so electromagnetic forces investigation 1.1.
Yep.
Under that, in that folder, you'll see presentation information. That's where you find the 2 versions of the teaching slides, the PDF and the PowerPoint, the notebook sheets that go with this investigation, and then you should see the implementation guide for investigation 1. Click on that. And that's where what Roxy and I was talking about completing the Google Doc. So you'll see materials and getting ready for the investigation 1, part 1, push and pull. You'll see 2 tables. And then if you scroll down, whoever's doing investigation 1.2, friction, see the same question, same tables. And then again for investigation part 3, forces in action.
It says it's view only.
What?
Oh, view only?
Sorry.
Did I?
I'm just.
I know I did it. That was my
You
fault.
did it, okay. And so the
Thank
idea
you.
is again, we want you to collect the data and it's for your benefit, not, I don't wanna sit there and really watch you.
Are we supposed to be looking on the CIA headquarters for the Google
Yeah,
Doc?
Shannon's gotta show you.
Yeah, scroll it. You need to go to 3rd quarter. Right here. Yeah. I'm gonna do it on my iPad.
What we're looking for is in investigation 1, part 1.
I saw something about Newton's laws,
Yep.
and I haven't read through this. Like
So in this list, we'll find
the
the Google Doc.
presentation information,
Push
it says
like
something
that,
about
and
Newton's
then
law,
you're
or we
open
teach
folder.
Newton's laws in this.
And then we're
Presentation.
Can do you mind if I log out? Do you know if that's
It talks about Newton, right, but it
No,
doesn't
like
give you the
Okay,
equation.
I am in the right place.
So it talks about Newton's, so it's not gonna necessarily go first law, second law, and third law. So in order to introduce Newton, because they're talking about pushes and pulls,
Right.
and what they want kids to realize is that if you push, on an object and it's the same object, or you pull on the object, it's an identical force.
Right.
And that's where it goes to the net. That's why Newton's third law comes out. First and second does not come out in that.
And
It will, but it doesn't. So again, the way I taught it was Newton's first, second, and third for whatever reason.
Right, that's how I.
And we don't do it that way.
Okay.
So yeah.
So these are just, this isn't all of investigation 1. It's 1.1 has a PowerPoint, 1.2 has a PowerPoint.
Exactly. And so if you notice, it'll tell you the slide.
Right.
It'll tell you what
Right here.
step it is, right? So that's key,
Yeah.
right? So it's helpful.
Yeah.
But if you notice the slides, there's not a whole lot of pictures in there,
That's okay.
but
It's enough for
it's enough, right? So if you do want to edit them, feel free to do
But it
that.
also is like where we can share the PDF with the kids so they can have it as notes.
You
too.
could- Perfect
It's
idea.
got information.
Yeah, it's not meant as it's for a teacher view only,
Right.
right? So absolutely, you can share those with your kids.
It's not in, it's
That's
not
what,
in,
yeah,
it's not
that's
anywhere.
what I did with mine.
Right.
I don't use it as.
And I would definitely share
It's
them,
not
yeah.
anywhere.
Can you edit now?
Modify them,
So
then
I'm
share,
At least it's
and make it a
before
PDF,
I've already
right?
started.
Because you might want to modify them.
Yeah.
Alright, so you guys clear on what you need to do?
All right.
Clear as mud?
Now you can edit it.
Clear as mud, right?
That clears it.
We're doing part 2, which is on page
What do you do?
99.
And the student notebook sheets are here.
Come
We
on,
made enough student notebook sheets for everyone, for all parts. So,
If I
thought twice I would have grabbed it, I didn't think, but I just didn't even think about it. Thank you.
tell me what you need.
Google Doc at 1.1.
So scroll down. Yeah, the Google Docs is in folder 1.1.
Okay.
So like
Scroll
that,
down.
and Shannon, I don't know where
It's
she
right here.
went.
Yeah,
implementation
implementation slide by
guide.
the teacher is so
Okay.
Yeah, and then you're doing what 1.3.
Yes.
So scroll down. You look for the third blue.
They're not section.
There's
Okay,
2.
part 2, I got you.
There's
Okay,
3.
this is where we.
That's where you fill it.
And some of those, if you don't get to everything, we want you to, because we're cutting this short. Get to the parts that, if you are a teacher, what do you feel is the most
Oh,
important,
you have to
right?
get these things. Oh, I see what you mean. That's applied by the teacher.
Right.
Got it. That's not what's in the box. That's
What we got to be extra.
Yeah, if you need, so like, for example, if you wanted extra material, right, but you don't have to, right?
Right.
The other thing is, here's the thing is, because this is short and we really want you to gather data, is if you can't fill all that out, fill out what you feel as a teacher at minimum you need. Right, so just do your own description. So do you notice these?
Which one are you
Your
guys
other
doing?
books didn't have that.
What is that?
Go to page 85, it's a quick start, and then look at
We're
page
not doing
7,
session
which
1.
this matches your,
Part 2,
use your
section
language,
50 minutes.
cause I don't know what you
We're
guys
on
call it, what
section
kids
2,
should be able to do.
We're not
Okay.
so there is.
You see,
Learning intentions.
This is this right here,
I
right?
knew,
It's only one session,
it was
so
like,
therefore
what
you're-
I'm like,
Jar, right, and not everybody calls something.
well, you know, every district
What
has
you're supposed to know.
there you go, what students should, we were always,
By a different name.
right, so
Different
I knew it was gonna be something different,
I
so,
figured it
yeah,
was.
wasn't gonna go there.
but learning
Part
intentions, so
3
just
has
so
a
you know,
different number
now
of
this
sections,
is
but
here,
part
so
2
then
only
this
has
is
one
45,
section,
45, so it kinda gives you a better idea.
Yeah.
So, when you get chemical interactions, the new books will look like these ones. But don't you think that's good?
7.
I like it.
This.
I think it's helpful,
See,
right?
part 2 is only one
Because
section.
before I had to read it within the.
Right. Now, it doesn't mean that you'll be able to get that done in 45, but
This
at
is
least
what
you
you're
have an
talking about?
idea of what you should be able to, and then you might
Oh, I
have
see
to
what you're saying. I'm
modify.
sorry. I was following.
Now, do you have a page 80 guide?
Because then
Going online.
part 3 is multiple
Okay,
sessions.
'cause I was gonna say, I have
we gotta
one.
use one
So,
session.
let me just show you two questions that I
So
think
50
are
minutes.
good. Just getting started now,
And we can just
kind of summarize.
part 3.
Oh yeah. So then I'm sorry. Then 45 minutes is a
And
reading.
then if it's
Using a reading
right
strategy.
now, then you go over here.
For this type, right?
Yes, so that day you're doing session 1 for part 2.
Snapshot and then gives you more detail.
And then it says schedule.
Here,
In
this breaks it up into sessions, so
consideration.
like when you saw, you're gonna do session 2 and
Somehow I
session
didn't
3
get
on
onto
the
that
next sheet.
thing.
This is what it does, and then here's your learning environments, so that kind of gives you a nice idea of what the student
There's
should do.
a copy of it,
Well, I typed it all.
but
together
it's
because
in
I had
the
to.
Alright.
hardback
I was
book.
reading for the title.
Oh,
Reading and
okay.
science
Pushes
right here.
and pulls
Discovery
and
through
pushes.
I think it's
So it's, yeah, the
really
discovery
close, so A for next year, it'll be this.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We on investigation
Go ahead
days,
and let me know.
Here's
How long will it take?
3
So
sessions.
one of the things to think about is what
At how long?
challenges might you have within the room and things like that.
Okay.
And then just let me know if you need any help there.
So they change it, it confuses me. My classes are an hour long.
Gather, subtract.
Oh, yours are an hour.
Yeah, so when we talk about.
Okay, so Shannon, we need to address that. Her classes are an hour.
But every
you have
day?
them every day.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would say.
I did cut it in half. It is.
Gather in half.
So like,
and
you would do session one like on a Monday, this on Tuesday, this on Thursday, or Wednesday, that on Thursday.
and they would be the thing.
So
That'd
think
be the
of
same
each,
thing.
think of each session or reading as one day.
Sorry,
Okay, is that helpful?
Yeah, I just.
Trying to get sick.
I know. Are you trying to?
And here's the other thing is, if yours are an hour, this
I'm
is
good.
45, you got an
How
extra
will you
15
begin the
minutes
lesson?
on every one of those. So if you
Hey
get,
guys,
I
we are
know,
doing this.
that's what I'm saying,
What's the
because
focus question? That's
you
what
could
it's
use
asking.
it, you might even be able to use an extra 30. But the nice thing
How
about it
does
is maybe
friction
one you
affect
don't need
our
30.
students?
So you kind of, so just think of it like that. Doesn't mean if you don't get that one done in the first day and you go into here and then you cut this out a little, like as far as it doesn't take as long, we're just giving you that to at least give you an idea.
Okay. No, I'm good now. Just like.
What data are they collecting?
The next one, whenever you're ready to copy.
What would be logistically challenging?
Yeah, the challenge is,
I think it's not.
Come in.
I believe.
The third sheet
here. A skateboard, some kind of board.
Yeah, right over here.
The force is with you. No, that's just giving
Was
you
it
an
locked?
example.
Yeah.
But I do see.
We don't
one
want you here.
car.
Just kidding.
You can join whatever group you want.
Alright, what data will they collect?
Anywhere. She's by herself.
Aww.
Is there some tangle way? Is there a spring scale?
Dude,
go
Was
ahead.
I supposed to get
Yeah.
one of these? Because I didn't get it with my pack.
It should have been in the box.
So they will use the spring scale to test.
I didn't look enough then.
Okay.
Use the spring scale to test friction.
Yeah, you should have the
Spiral?
and then soft slide with resources.
So they're gonna, what they're gonna do is,
All this stuff is online.
one's gonna
Yeah, I
push
was
on one
looking online, yeah.
pull on the other end, so then you put paper clips
Oh,
on
they're
it.
not going the big distance then.
No,
Okay, it's not a bad reading.
not a big distance. Everything, and I'll show you, so.
I don't see that there's any.
No, I don't think there is. Like I said, this one, like the other one was, how do you clean up in between?
That's different from unfortunately would be in here and you
that.
can go through it.
I'm
Do
just
you have
individual
a
trying to see how
student
this
compares so we can see
I
what
know
the
it's
page
not
numbers
supposed
are
to-
for.
Right here.
And we have a bunch of work, but
if I'm trying to.
Okay, so
I'm
it's
gonna
really
get
all laid out.
I use
That
this.
one I gotta figure
No,
out
I'm
where
gonna
everything
No,
is.
you're good. I'm noticed her file.
Relearn.
That's mine.
Oh, I see, it says your name on the inside.
here's
Well,
the,
Alright,
here's
so.
the one that they do the actual investigation
As needed.
8 to
on. With the loads. We're just trying to eliminate as much friction as possible.
almost to the end.
Do we wanna do a guide? Okay.
So, we don't have that, I'm gonna try to figure it out. I'm sorry.
Oh, we have. So it's strategies coming. You add the strategies.
How's it going? Happy New Year.
Where the instructions begin, what we start doing.
You do?
Yeah, it's like I don't.
Getting ready, alright, here we go, getting ready.
You don't want to, do it.
Prepare material, the last one slide.
Alright, here
How
we
you
go.
expect it,
Happy now, I got it.
Yeah, it's the answer. Focus questions, they can draw, I'm thinking like a diagram, potentially like carpet or whatever.
Draw pictures of what they tested and explain the differences.
No, I haven't.
Is it
vocabulary
easy to call
terms?
paint?
I don't know
It
what
makes
this
no
means,
difference.
prepare for initial
Do you
use
wanna add a
assessment.
technology
Big study just came out.
Yeah, they were saying everyone should have flu shots tonight
Yeah,
at work.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, great, the first time I get a flu shot.
The A tells you what's
Probably,
That's
I
every
mean,
year.
I don't know that there's anything
So-
responsible for this one, it doesn't say.
Give us feedback on this, like, we
So
did
they
this
will
stuff
collect
with
the
me.
force, amount of force,
Okay,
right?
and one of the things that you will see online,
Push the car,
the,
new students see push
I don't think we have to.
vocab words are in blue, they don't show up in black and white. But if you look over there, I put investigation one, there's 3 parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, and all the vocab are already out.
Maybe we
So
just
that
say
gives you,
review the
now,
materials.
I don't want you to do that when you do your class, but
Right.
that, for a
A lot
teacher,
of it is
gives you a
reading
pretty
your
good
file.
idea of
Right,
what
but
it's
I'm
about.
saying,
Right.
Right?
yeah,
You're
the
like, oh,
PowerPoint
we
or
don't talk
whatever.
about net force until
But
the very end.
as far
Yeah,
as
So they
The
really have to
magnet,
develop
like
the
investigation
force,
2 has
what it takes,
a
and
simulation
what's
on
the-
it, investigation.
No.
no, I mean not that's a bad thing.
No, I'm saying I'm trying to think through. There's others in
Yeah, because what they
this is gonna come up later, but
Copies of the notebook.
investigation 2, like this doesn't cover series and parallels. We're gonna throw that in, but there's a gizmo that goes over
So,
that we
but
could
the
just to
idea
plug
is,
in.
because they're learning about pushes and pulls, and what they learn
I did.
I haven't. Yeah, I
Yeah,
have not done any gizmos. I don't know when. Where.
There's some good ones coming up.
But the other grades
that
is
we use.
zero.
Oh yes, okay. Brittany got the highest Gooms reviews.
but I'm talking about like for 8th grade, we didn't have to be using kids.
Well, the element builder one we suggested, I sent out the I created
I didn't say
I created a new worksheet and everything for that one.
Before my time started, yeah.
They should be responding.
But that's a
Yeah, they
Foster
asked why.
sees that as a 4th grade topic.
Do we have anything in this?
Okay, well,
This one seems pretty
Right,
straightforward.
but yes, so you're not collecting like quantitative data, but for them, they've gotta realize, and then what's gonna end up happening,
Very common
Shannon,
sense.
make sure I say this accurately, is you're gonna include some net force
I did. It's already in the folder in investigation
practice
grade.
ones.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so do we, maybe we want them to look at that.
Yeah, I just found 2 online. I have more at the office, but I haven't
How we
seen
got
So do you want them to
into
look at those and-
And they can dump in anything else that they.
Okay.
Can we just say, we
Okay,
want
so-
to go through the results with them and ask
Oh
them
yeah,
what
what
we
was
like,
the
ask them to discuss the results and like
after they're done.
what conclusions they can draw based on their, right?
So-
We're supposed to say that.
the collaboration tool. They're making,
So what data would your students collect?
Before you know it, they'll be 15-year-old brats and they're looking 27 like $9.
Yeah, so it's more what data.
yeah, it's not collection data, they're running collaboration.
Definitely got that. I got to be so glad that they're 27 and not 15.
It's not. And.
We're gonna check the cheese later.
I do. I go back through pictures.
Oh,
I
I
feel
I
sorry
didn't
for
do the
you.
first
No, I'm
problem.
excited.
What you don't like about it?
I don't know, I just
I was like, here's your
and then when I use
Come
that,
back.
it's
Okay,
so
when you're
frustrating.
done.
to like something I don't know how to do.
That's
I don't know
right.
how to, like, how do you get your kids to keep it? Like,
Sorry. I got it.
Yeah.
You're fine. I don't take
okay, so then they have a bunch of screenshots of
UAL.
I mean,
Yeah, I did. I told
I want my kids to have something
so I should
that they can take back, but saved, like, in Google Classroom, under a file, this is where I can go if I need to find notes on this. Now I have the whole PowerPoint we talked about, like, I need my kids to
That's
work.
so fucking
Yeah.
good.
So
Oh,
they're
guys,
going
they
to
did.
looks like.
Alright, so you talking about how we guide students?
Yeah.
What do they do?
That was my
You
biggest.
guys through first one? Okay.
There's actually 4 and 5.
It'll have an open code on that.
So guide through number
Yeah,
one.
see, I could
and
never
have
figure out how to let them
students
keep,
do,
like, that was the thing that bothered me, because I want them to have
Pushes and pulls A.
Yeah, I've done that, I've done that.
This is a time check. It's 3:33.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
If we want to leave at 4, might want to
Right.
start.
Right, that's
cracking
that's
these.
what I do, because if I back my notes, everything, I do everything on Google Slides, and then they have the Google Slides on Google Classroom, always. There's no,
2 to 3
I
sentences.
mean, like, I don't know. That's just me personally, but I also never like give them your project
And when
a
I'm
chance.
checking,
Okay, I
I
just
just
kind
underline there if that's vocabulary.
of, yeah, so therefore you,
Just
yeah,
underline
you're
vocabulary.
partial to it, and makes sense. I probably would be if I tried it more, like if I was more open minded.
Yeah,
You do both, actually.
Yeah, I could, and I should
Go.
broaden my horizon.
Yeah, so when you underline, you spell it wrong, you just figure, so it doesn't have the extras in it.
So I'm gonna have to try now.
I got you.
Because if you got Google Slides.
You know, like A,
The partner I
you
work
left out your
with
A
for
for
history,
history,
we
but
I
do
was
your
looking
part
at you.
every
I
day.
didn't
It's
read
like,
it.
I have done your part.
No, you're good, sorry.
Because they just do them all the time over there too.
Is that right?
It happens,
That's
but.
spring
scales are all-
That's
That's
huge, but I do
Yeah.
like collaboration tool, and I do like some of the things that it has, that you can, you know,
Like virtual
right,
Right.
Force or interaction. I'd like
So-
adding to this.
No, I was
for this
listening.
Force
one.
interaction,
I was
yes,
listening.
Okay,
doing
so how are we gonna get them to make this?
interaction.
This is actually where it's balancing out. It says
Newton's.
contact,
Okay.
but when you do net
I mean, maybe they
force,
can say something for like just a couple seconds.
I actually.
I mean, I would say, yeah, use your
Share
you could
results.
use your PowerPoints. You could upload the slides
Just say-
into Nearpod and add.
You do collaboration, list multiple things of, for them to make sense of. It could be collaboration on Nearpod, it could be.
Discuss, yeah, any sort of discussion of data and why it is what it is. And were they similar to other
You
people?
can even give scenarios that's not specifically pertaining to like on Nearpod, like scenarios, what would be the best scenario for
Okay.
whatever you wanna do.
I would think just being there as a picture,
Perfect.
see it.
Yeah.
You know, have a conceptual understanding of what's happening.
Yeah, their age, they aren't necessarily gonna be able to pick up on that very quickly.
But they can always show pictures. There's gonna be a lot of pictures the rest of the year.
So this we did.
Some of those courses say
Overall, what
some
aspect of this activity may be the most challenging, what suggestions would you provide students to
They watch the
what's
video.
And they're
challenging?
reading in this investigation.
And they answer the
I
question.
think
Yes.
anything's challenging about this activity. Maybe just
Videos,
time
and
constraints might be your challenge.
On whatever topic it is. Click on video.
This was
The
because
course and pages.
This is like kind of like your Google
all
Slides.
of them.
Right,
So,
all of them.
yeah. So there might not be
Where she
something.
already
Keeping
did this.
students on
And
task,
there's your,
because when they work
and
together,
then
they
we do the
bond,
notes
they play.
on top of that in class.
Yeah.
Or throw it at each other.
Yeah.
guided questions.
Is there a reading in this
I
investigation?
did it yesterday with one group and then I can't do it.
Oh, yeah, please do.
Because we're testing.
We all
Tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, we're testing
Oh, they push
the
it
next day, no, Thursday, Friday, yeah, we're testing.
This sure is.
Yes, the force is with you.
I had to do more.
Yes, it is.
And I already had
That's
it.
the name.
So putting the test down, I did not tell them.
Sure.
Oh, is it on there?
Yeah.
That's what I'm asking some questions.
Where do you
see
Have an exam day.
Where is it in here?
So how are you guys, do they test? Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not,
it's on page 72.
No, I don't want us to do
I'm
it.
not.
Everyone's like,
Right, 9-5.
but I don't,
Well,
because
the reading-
they have a
It's
step
not
investigation at the beginning of it. I wanna be honest, I know when I'm not.
I was looking
It's
for
before.
it.
No,
The
we have to
student
go
vote.
in.
I got it.
It's like today that I have to
Where
go
did you
in.
read? Oh, it says reading, it doesn't say
They
reading.
do this.
Because they did
Okay.
not push everything.
I have to go into the grade book and fix it so there's not an
To
example.
get the course
with you for all.
But, yeah, I'm going to,
Because I went to see Star Wars and I'm
Yeah,
just kind of like
that's
that.
what it is, right?
like, and then they're like, well, you can't
Okay.
put it in if it's gonna hurt the grade. Yes, I can, and yes, I am, because it's an exam.
Yeah, it's just.
It's not
Be
like
quiet,
a
read
normal CSA, like,
independently.
they thought it was gonna be
Yes,
10% of their
it's-
entire
that's your
semester
strategy.
grade, so.
But
But it comes to find out they actually
I
can't
would
do
probably
that.
have them read it outside
Sure.
of class, because my students tend to goof off.
Well,
Like,
it's not great enough
yeah,
to ever come.
probably.
Oh, it just shows up on the-
Or it could be
It will
homework
not show
assignment,
up on
or
your
it could be
report.
classwork.
You can't, I just put the force applied as less than the force needed though. with
Right,
the
but
person.
I'm saying on your report card, even if we had it as an exam, my guidance counselor said it would not show up. Because our report
It does. Now,
No.
last year,
I don't give reading assignments unless I give
it showed,
They're not ours.
outline with
it
them.
showed AB
Yeah, because they won't do
or
it.
F.
G and,
They're-
okay, is there a technology
looking at it, I
component to
remember.
this? So,
In the,
all right.
Because even when you go to grade book, if you put an exam, the exam doesn't show up in like the regular report.
There is
No, I know,
video.
I know.
Videos
Well, that's not ours.
Right, so
They
I
grade
am telling you, saying
Oh,
that
you're
it
right.
won't show up because it's not an actual
My
like
head is
test.
like this.
Like we can send it out that one, but
You
it
never
won't
have a
print
day
at high
like
school.
that.
I'll be at the rewrite. Or what do you think of my answer?
It showed.
Is there tech, yeah, we did, they
I'll
need a
tell us.
calculator
Yeah.
and,
Okay, cause I don't know, I was out with her, she told me that it doesn't.
medium board.
Okay, perfect.
See, the one, she must have been differently because I'm like, I don't know what it was, cause I learned the first quarter, I remember it being like, it didn't make a difference in the grade level.
Classroom.
So I have no idea.
It didn't affect their grade, it just showed them
Alright,
what they
make
wanted
sure
to
we're
do.
staying task and looking at the,
Oh, but it did not, it didn't have a semester grade.
and then getting the materials and trying it out to get some
So
data.
that one, the stalemate,
We
it
wanna
was
do
just.
it? Their grade is-
would not-
Alright, so we
Right.
need, words, and we need, what do they call it? Yes.
Oh, I see what you're doing, okay.
We have to get the screen
Okay.
scales, uploads,
Those are the plastic mats. You can just use
Because it would have moved, because it
Again,
only
if you
needed
just do a
50.
couple trials just to get an
So they
idea.
had 450 extra newtons for the moving part, but it didn't. So how much force?
No, this is a separate.
These are nice and slick.
Yeah, so they should be frictionless.
There's a spring scale.
Oh, you might want to mention
Oh, that's okay. I mean, because even though
Oh,
something
yeah,
is bigger,
yeah.
they're gonna say the big
What
size
size rubber
first,
band does
you
it
know?
say?
It doesn't say, it says eight.
Like,
Oh,
people
number
go
three.
back with the same amount of
I didn't
force,
put that on the
therefore-
thing when I did it.
You sure?
Uh-oh.
Oh, they're all
Because the
number
friction would go in
33.
either direction, so
I
that
should
would
have
be
looked
brutal.
at it before
You
I
know what
said
I'm
it.
saying?
So something to think about is
So
if
they
you
would
have a
just
little
be, like
tabletop
we said,
air
they'd
hockey,
both be pushing with the
you
exact
could
same
always
force,
bring
right?
that to try to limit it.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't have
I don't either. I
I'm
used
gonna
to.
buy one this weekend, but sorry.
Yeah.
Walmart has them for $30, so
No.
maybe
We don't get reimbursed for $30.
I'm saying you could have Kim order it on a Amazon has them for $44.
You need the,
Tabletop
By next
the
week?
clips.
Am I gonna get it back Wednesday?
tabletop air hockey.
Am I gonna get it back
Because that would
Wednesday?
give her a frictionless
Sum it up.
surface.
Like, can I get it back Wednesday?
I can
As
talk
much as I'm like, that would be awesome.
I have so many things I need to get on my orders.
I can
have
ask,
no idea.
I can ask Felicia if we can go
Those are
use the
clothes,
Walmart
sorry.
card and
So they're in there, but they're in the same kind of box.
Yeah, I'll send me an email.
I'll bring my big air hockey too.
Because I can't
Car
access
rolls
my.
to the
Then you
left,
put grip
so the
down.
car
Thank you.
rolls this way, right?
She's out of town until
So
tomorrow
student
afternoon,
C
so I'll
had to
ask her.
apply more force than student
I
A.
just saw something that
So he's right, right?
The white,
We're definitely gonna have to put in
How do you
the
know
SOLs for that one. And the reason for that.
to make it
They
directly
need
straight forward?
What size are they?
That's-
So the finances say.
Here are our loads.
We have to put
something on that.
You said a flip.
well, the idea is you use
They
one,
have a lab.
and then you
Where's
do
this
three,
one?
and they predict.
We're kind of summing it up.
So that's
Yeah, I
why,
feel like
that's why it's like that. They're right here.
Okay, what I'm sure we're doing this right.
They're not gonna flip, these are actually gonna allow you to measure the force. So if you,
We're trying to sum it up.
Wrap
Mark.
up section.
once they're on, they're good to go, and then I'll show you.
We talked more about the other two, so I'm assuming.
Yeah, so we gotta do one.
Well, she said ours is
That's four.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your folder, if you look,
These are obviously the idea is, once they're on, then when you push it, it'll stay, and it'll show you the distance then that the smartphone went. And then to calibrate them, this one is not very good, so you'll need to calibrate it, so it's at 0.
Yeah,
And so you'll go
I
ahead
found
and
those two.
calibrate that.
Now, I
So
found
it's
the
not
white
bad.
thing.
It does,
Today,
so
I was
like
here
looking
working
at it,
and not at the office, so,
like right there, looks pretty good, right?
yeah, right there. Yeah, those are just extra worksheets that I found.
Once you put them on, you're set. So what happens is when you push on them,
I didn't have my
it'll
resources
go out
here,
based on
they're at
the
the office.
number of,
But I wanted to put something
push
pushes.
so it just takes.
Oh, so
a
here, you
second.
guys might have more trouble with the map, some additional work that our activities in there.
That's what we said too, it'd probably.
I forgot I had a sentence email.
So we have a note sheet,
You just want
we
to
have 5 practice problems here.
like you
But doing the 1.1.
That's where you use
Fill
math,
the-
right?
the kind of
We're not
calibrate
really using much here, though.
When
So
you
then
completed
once
push
that's
pull,
there,
and
then
that
when you
works,
push on it,
it's adding
gonna
and
stay
subtracting,
based
so
on
we have to
the
like,
distance it goes.
Okay,
it's
like-
like
The other
positive
side.
push
I
together.
can-
Oh, yeah, so like this
Or
student
or
push
something.
something hard against the wall with 500
Yeah.
newtons.
Just
So
so
they
we
would
have a
only
flat
use one.
surface.
yeah.
But just
I'll
show this to these guys.
The amount
Here's
of
the
force
surface
pushed
they
against the
do
wall is the
prior to
same
the friction.
that the wall pushed
So
back.
this is included
How
for
would
the
you say
model.
that?
How many of
Can we-
those are included? Like that?
The way you said it
I
was
think
zero.
8, so there's enough for
The
groups of
amount of
4.
force you push on the
But
wall
I'm not
is the same
100% sure,
amount
but
of
I'll
force.
find out.
Okay.
And I don't know.
on their technique.
Right?
And then for my really, really special ones, I go, when someone punches you in the face, you punch them back with the same amount of force on your face to your hands. No, you believe it or not, that's the only way some of my kids get it. They're like, wait a sec, and they bring that up. They bring that up. They pull it into a real life example, and I just not.
So, all right, hold on a second. Let me look up the.
I would say it's coming back to you.
on something.
I wouldn't use
That's a long time.
Like it hasn't happened before me.
They literally second grade.
What?
It was down.
I want my kids. I'm bullied.
I don't.
Yeah, that's
what you
against the barrel.
One
Find in
load.
those, but that's definition.
Or equally pushed back.
What's the distance?
That's interesting, I'll have to talk to my,
Maybe make it easy.
my guidance counselor and tell her.
You can put parentheses opposite direction.
No, I mean, like, that's what
Because they don't understand.
Do we
What's the
actually?
time check, Shannon?
3:44.
Do we actually mention
Third.
Students carry
Is
out
this what?
investigations. It says,
Okay,
let's
so
do
we
an
don't
annual
do-
audit
yeah,
on
we don't
the
do
budget
two.
of technical and
When do we
operations.
That's gravity and like kinetic energy.
then there'll be a week
For the next month.
Is it not gonna confuse the kids when they start seeing that we took that and start jumping it and splitting it up?
But that, they don't
You
have any
gotta measure
reference to
the
the other two right
average
now.
friction.
Where's the white nut?
They have reference to this third.
We don't have the right papers, guys.
That's for reaction is the
This is
opposite.
right.
Are we pushing, or we're pushing
Okay.
the
And
first?
then you pull it back up. Okay, remember we talked about
No,
this
that's
back
a teacher
here.
master.
Yeah.
That was his third law,
It's this
with
one.
two others.
So there's 8 of those. 8 of these.
If
So you
one
just
of this is
use
if you like this,
Oh, I got
You know,
and
unless,
put it
how many
directly around
students you
it.
guys usually have?
you. 26.
So you might not have to work in groups of 4 all the time. But it's, you know, so there's enough for 32.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So,
I got you. See, ideally,
How does
it's
that
just
thing
smaller
conventional
better.
force?
Yeah.
More hands-on.
I thought they were.
You can pull it too and it'll pull.
So how does this help us measure how much force?
This is just to show you in.
because it's supposed to be, you're supposed to be pulling it.
This is what they use to pull the loads of.
That's not enough
Is it-
friction.
'cause I can-
Right, but I mean, like, how do we measure it?
Because when you pull it,
Equal and opposite.
They pull and push, on.
Right,
But what does that roll do for Piggy do? That's what she said we
Oh.
have to use to measure and then
So
we'll get
first
out
law,
of
just
We get pushed
no, that's the distance. It just tells you the distance.
Okay, first law is.
So I could measure with a ruler and for reaction.
Right.
Not even get reaction.
No,
No.
once an object is set in motion.
But I don't
say
think
it
we have
moves
enough
for
friction.
that.
Yeah.
Want to try the carpet?
The
It's been a
equal
while
and
since I
opposite
took
of
practice.
refraction.
too.
I remember that from.
Help me.
Yeah. 'Cause we're-
Roxanne, yes.
So you have
We're
the sun-
confused too, with the same
Oh,
question.
so you're pulling it on, okay, so,
this is the moving.
this isn't moving, right, and actually, when they
Oh,
were doing
yeah, I
the
do.
loads, they just
I
had
think I
a,
really like it, 'cause I can
but
pass it.
they go like this, although, I think that was for the
Oh,
first
yeah?
one. So that works fine, so when you're pulling the load,
Well, this is how they have it in the picture.
Increase.
So it goes
Yeah.
around the box like this.
right,
So you did have
so, I was gonna say,
Got
Oh,
3 tons
Probably
of
there's some other
weight.
labs.
honestly, I don't know, because I've always done it this way. And so they do that, and then when you do 3, you just rubber band all 3 together.
So how does
You
it,
gotta look at
okay,
it.
show us how that, and then how does that help us?
The guy.
Oh,
I
this,
think you
okay,
do
and
gotta
then you
tell
can
what
also,
happened
it's
with
also on the
that
teacher
man
prep
there,
video,
he
just
heavy
an FYI.
objects. Some of
So
these
then
things were
you're
heavier
gonna
than
pull
equipment we
the
had to do.
amount, well, and
If
then
you, like,
this,
put all these huge
is,
things,
I
they
wouldn't
all
consider
move.
this very
Please,
friction,
sir.
it's
Yeah.
like
Right.
adding, it's
Florida.
probably,
Right.
this is
I
pretty
forget what it's
Slick.
called.
slick cardboard,
Full
but,
castle,
so what they're
like this
doing is,
1907
you're pulling this,
somewhere a long time
Wanna use
ago,
my jacket?
1920, something like that.
no, you don't have to, but
But
that's
they
a
don't
good
know
idea.
yet.
I need-
First of all, you
Yeah.
would need to calibrate this, so,
It's
which
absolutely
is pretty
crazy.
close.
Yeah, you gotta look
but
at some of the stuff.
It's
yeah.
really, when you're pulling
Something
one
like
load,
that
it's
on,
about 0.2 newtons.
Philadelphia
It's not very
experiment
much,
and
just
stuff.
so you know. So, at first, it's to make sure,
Okay, the whole city.
Let's try with 3.
but one was about 0.2 newtons.
How do they put
All
that?
part out of the mountain.
So it says how much force does it take to push the mat, not push it, and then how much force does it.
Oh, well, push, then they're just not gonna use this, and they're gonna use this other end.
Oh, I see.
And
Oh,
then
I don't, yeah, I don't know that. I
push
like
it,
that.
so,
Okay.
I like
so-
jumping around
Kevin,
from reading a book or something.
So
how do you measure it?
well, when, well, the white, I never really liked it, but the idea is the white thing is, once it's pushed, but like if you're only going 0.2 newtons, it doesn't go out very far, so then you can look at the distance and then you can measure the distance
Oh, so you
there.
just gotta compare it.
Yeah,
I see,
I
all
don't
right,
really,
we get it now.
I don't really
Yeah, all right,
use
that
that,
makes sense.
where it's this is they're reading
It
it,
makes
so
sense.
they're gonna have to learn, it's pretty
You're
tough,
just
and
gonna
like I
have to
said, it's not gonna take a ton of newtons. So, and this one's not.
He was with me at Sims, now you're in
Right, this one's pretty nice.
Yeah, you can carpet.
Well, you don't have to get carpet, you can just like, I mean, even like sandpaper, like I bought sandpaper, you could just put anything in sandpaper. If you don't have carpet, just a carpet square, yeah. But, you know, I don't want you to feel like you have to go out and buy something. Do you have any
slice up
material
my
at home, or you have any old things like a pair of jeans? Yeah,
I
see? There you go, a baby
Ignore the
blanket.
spit up on.
So,
I'll make
yeah.
sure they're clean.
So, but the idea here, if you notice,
Friction.
is they do 1 and then they do 3 and then they've got to predict what they think 2 would be. So, you know, the idea there, and then this is the really the purpose of that rubber band. and then that's gonna hold them together, so it's like one load.
I didn't see it.
And then they're gonna.
Oh, you're right, it did.
And then pull it. So the idea is
That's how you're gonna
push and the pull. So it's gonna take a little bit for them to practice with the force feeders. But I think there's enough for every student, so
Let's just
Yeah, you have to have someone like that's their job.
and the other thing is you need them to get it going and then to continue moving,
Well, that makes a
like at a
difference when you
constant
use
speed,
something.
right? Because probably to get
The
it
initial
started,
force is more than
especially on friction,
That's like
right?
me, okay.
When the, I mean, if you wanna try a sandpaper one,
So then
just
you
to
can
give
do
you an
more,
idea.
or what?
Yeah, I would,
So they have to.
You know what?
So they need their whole
If it
table.
stinks, it's
You can do
chemistry.
it.
If it doesn't work, it's.
Or put tape on the table from here to here.
So we need to put
That
that
is
in.
really
Oh,
good.
great idea. So, I mean, I don't know, see what that does. That might not be
That would be a constant, though, if you put tape on the table. It's just related to how good your nerves are.
So they're gonna have to do it the same exact speed.
Tape off distance, tape off.
So that took quite a bit, takes quite a bit more force, just to give you an idea.
Yeah.
I think probably better sandpaper so that you can actually see the measurements.
Right, so
Yeah.
we just give, we don't have to change the different surfaces for this, or we give each table a different surface.
Yeah, do what you want,
Okay.
you know, and then you could easily have one graphic, you can go more into it, but, you know, if you do something like I said, I just ran a chart, but you do something like this, and maybe you just tape them all together, and just one large.
So the point is not for all the kids to have the same data, but every table is doing a little bit different surface, and we have to compare what they have.
Right, and they have a,
Yeah, right.
so you can pull
So
that
that's
up,
where we can,
and
okay.
it is editable,
Sure.
fill number
Right.
on the teacher masters, so they can easily do that, and like I said, I think the sandpaper's really good. And felt would probably be good, you know, again, I wouldn't go out and get stuff, but if you have like a piece, like not even carpet, but like what do you call
I
it?
think
Those
baby blankets
rug.
would be good.
A rug,
You
you
can
know,
just
like
use cardboard, like tape the baby blanket underneath, so where they have to,
Or like that piece of rug, you know, like an entrance mat or something like that might be.
oh yeah, like a welcome mat.
Welcome mat, thank you.
Put your jacket on.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I don't think you want them to push that, that's a nice jacket.
For size. For size.
Sacrifice that we made.
I do have to
That-
like write it for.
That's
Okay, I added into the notes that take off
To
the
left.
section
What
of
will
the
happen
table
to
and
part?
then the table will
To
be
left.
Wonderful.
Alright, we are.
Do you wanna just kind of
8
share out?
minutes, right?
Yeah.
You wanna share out? Has everybody had a chance to?
That would be true. Okay. So we
Do you
gotta
guys
do it.
wanna share out or keep going where you are?
We're gonna like hold it and shove it.
Doesn't matter.
Let's keep
Really
going.
different data.
Cause keep going.
Then we scratch all
Oh,
up.
I mean, we already did it, basically, are you?
Do we able to get
Do you
any
want
kind of data?
Do you want us to fill it totally out?
No, I don't want you to fill it totally. I just thought if you could grab some data, I think it's, like, the idea is for someone to know that it's not gonna be 10 newtons. But the sandpaper might be, right? So when you have the,
So we definitely don't want you to have like this because you can't.
Yours, mine.
well, this will have friction, this will add something, but like I said, you might wanna give these to your higher end kids, cause it's, it might only be 0.4.
Okay.
versus
Right, the
4
smoother,
scale.
the smoother ones would go.
Like I said, when I did this one, my data was 0.2
Right.
with one load.
Right.
Just to give you an idea, so a 0.2 doesn't really move that much.
Right.
And so that's just something to think about.
Right, okay.
And you might have to bring that up to them.
I think I'm gonna like this unit way better than the chemistry.
And kids like this
I
stuff.
really do. This just seems so much easier.
It says challenging.
So notes for them?
Yes.
So you guys are done with this, I'll just talk.
So Roxanne, what we're noticing is that when you push it fast or pull it fast, you get a lot more force. If you're doing it slowly, you hardly get any.
Right, so what you need to explain to them is to overcome initial motion, it takes more force, so you don't read it, but you gotta get it at a constant speed. No, you can just say, get it to move at a constant
This is
rate,
point
and so
three.
then they'll see that. So,
Okay.
and that's definitely, because you don't want the initial
Negative 0.1.
like that, because then they'll read it and they'll be like 10 or whatever, I don't know. Because really for one, it's about 0.2. I don't recall what it was, but if you look at it, and then once it gets going, it's pretty straightforward. So yes, you definitely have to make sure that.
We definitely need something.
Our little-
No matter whatever.
So shoving it is not a good idea.
You can do different
Grades.
grades.
So I'm gonna put these.
Carpet square, sandpaper,
We push
6
hard.
different things.
So you're about right. You're about right. 0.3. Yeah. All right.
Blanket, a blanket.
I mean, we can
Push
your
it.
jeans pretty much.
It fell off the table.
Okay, the most challenging aspects of it.
I'm gonna put these things away.
Getting students to push their comments.
Getting, alright, students to push.
Okay. I just wanna help you clean up here.
Right.
Speed.
Follow them.
Too slow or
Push and pull
too fast.
So you might have to do a demo or a quick show of how to.
Are you doing the same one we are? I think
So
No, they
you're
do the beginning of
I have
it,
a card.
and then you guys do the different
No,
materials.
she's typing in hours.
Right, well, no, they actually get up and push on a cart. It tells you in
I think
there.
you typed in
You get a
hours.
cart in the, it tells you on
Oh,
there.
so like you diet?
So your kids are actually doing that.
I've cursed on it before too.
So I'm like, wait, I'm not typing actually the kids pushing on a cart.
Oh, is that our section? That would be like what they're doing, right? Or would this be our
Yeah, so you
section?
have a cart or something and the kids are actually getting up and pushing on it.
Oh, I,
So this is an actual cart and an actual.
oh, I understand. And that would be like the first part.
Right,
And then
right.
like, so we're just doing the last part.
Well, but you just to make sure, like, are there any challenges with that? You know, you gotta make sure you have something that moves.
Alright, good, well, you guys should be good
You know,
now.
and then you put it against the wall.
Carpet,
Does the
sandpaper,
cart
different
move?
grades.
So you're actually having kids get up and do it.
Google Docs are good, but then that's one of the
So
the
there
drawbacks.
are no,
Typing in
if you
somebody
will,
else's stuff.
materials for that. Like that cart right there is a perfect
I
cart,
got you.
something like that,
Okay.
right? So you might have to think
I
about
have one right
something
here.
like that. And if you don't have a cart, then I guess you could use a chair.
Oh,
but it's not
absolutely.
gonna change
the
I
weather.
got it.
That
From
makes sense?
cold to, it's 74 today.
Beautiful.
It is beautiful out. I was gonna go to the gym, but
I'm waiting for some thunderstorms, but,
they already, they're
Good
gone.
job. Yeah,
there weren't any thunderstorms.
No.
How would you know?
It's rained already.
Rain, but not
So the idea is there,
I love thunderstorms. I would sit outside and watch them all day.
The idea
I
there
wanted
is
to sit
not
on my
to
screen room and
be able
listen
to
to it
calculate a
and
force,
thunder
you
and
can't,
lightning.
right?
I like
Because
to
if a
watch
kid is
it.
pushing on a cart, you don't have any way to
Oh,
calculate
yeah.
that force. What you
You'd
wanna
have to
show
have
them
the thing
is
that they're
that
using for the
if they're
measurement.
both, well, but, or the idea is
Well,
it
it's just
tells
for
you
you to
in there,
think that
you have
last
a cart.
a week,
Right.
almost a week
Want
ago
them to move
today,
it with the
we
force
watched
here, and they realize they can't.
You would
Right?
love living in
So then
South
you can have
Florida.
3 people try to move it
Oh, I
with the
know.
force.
Was it
of
really?
what
every
you
day.
do.
Rain shower almost
Each
every
one's
day.
at
And the
night
sun comes
and
out and it's so
so
stinking
See, I've
deep,
never
you can
seen
barely
it.
breathe.
It's all like
You guys don't
Yeah,
get
so
it.
if each one is at whatever the highest is,
I got it.
then if one person
So they
pushes
can only
on
push
it,
the amount of that.
right, I mean, you can't go beyond
I
it.
got
And
you.
this only goes to,
That's just a spring scale.
right, but you can push it, and you
And you
can pull
can
it.
measure the amount of newtons, like,
So,
so you do 10. you
This
do
one
10,
only
you
does
do 10.
5 newtons, so if you're pushing on this table, you're not gonna move this table with that 5 newtons. But if you had 5 people,
Spring scale go more than 5.
I don't see that. But if you have 5 people pushing on it all with 5 newtons, it's 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus, so that's 25,
And
doesn't
if it
move
still
it.
doesn't move.
And if it still doesn't move, then you didn't know it takes more than
So you
25.
can just ask them how much force does it require to move this table?
Well, you could ask them that, and then they could measure it.
Yeah.
And so then
To
you're
figure it
starting
out.
to show them that the sum of all the forces, and then what would it, then it moves. Now, if I wanna stop it moving, how many newtons would I have to push on the other side? Well, if it took 30, then you've got to do 30, right? And then if you wanted it to move in one direction, which force would you got? But you should actually have them actually try it,
Sure.
you know, and then just like see about that, and so that's what they're asking you to do in that. And then this is the answer, the conceptual part of that after. Does that make sense?
Prunes. He did.
Is he eating
my child? Yes.
Yeah, I've done yeah, how much is he weighing? Yeah, Elliot is
I'm just
22.
gonna put this in there, and these, oh, that's
My
Yeah.
daughter is turning 7 in a couple weeks, and that I'm having a hard time with. she wants an
So whatever
emoji
force-
birthday party.
So whatever
Emojis,
force
and she wants to
pushing
sleep
out,
over. And I said,
it's
when
going
am
back,
I
right?
coming up
It
to
goes in that
an
direction.
emoji sleepover?
Huh?
Like
Do you
what
have
happened to
anybody
Mickey
going
Mouse
to
and
the
like
I mean,
Okay,
well, I
we need
know
an
at
X
the
amount
door
of
today.
force for that rock to
I
start
have
moving, to head down space.
research in
Yeah.
second grade. No, Caitlin.
And there's more, there's 300 some kids.
Okay, yeah.
And she does play music.
When you think that if
Which
you
one?
kids
If you took a launch pad and you like
owner of the
dug
DMV
out around it,
daughter, and then
right,
the
till
other
little
teachers
teeth
that
and
they
then
should do
squishing it with
I'm
more.
not even sure where
Right.
She's coming home though. She doesn't like.
Yeah, no, they're
What did you say?
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that would be kind of interesting to see, you know.
Every
I
time
know
she
it's
goes,
not
I didn't
super
even
class.
She comes home, like she'll get sick, and so she'll come home,
So the
and
launch
then
pad
she'll
is
get better, and
the
so
same
Jackie
way.
gets sick again. So she's like,
I know it's gotta go like 23
Are you
miles
gonna wrap up real
miles
fast?
per
It's
hour
4 o'clock.
escape route.
Kids think you know.
All right, we wanna. It is 4 o'clock, so if you
Yeah, something like that to go that fast.
real quick,
9 days.
Leslie.
Yeah, sorry.
Real quick, if you want to, as a table, just share something that you guys did in your group, so the other groups have some kind of idea of what to expect. Again, there are teacher videos, the prep videos in each of the modules. They are not linked on the CIA website in those folders because you have to log into FOSWeb in order for them to be there. But definitely look at those. You go to resources by investigation once you're logged into FOSWeb, and they're the first thing that pop up underneath each of the investigations in the parts. If you need help finding them, let me know. I can show you. But it was pointless to link them because it didn't link. So real quick, you guys had 1.1.
Yeah. The toughest part was pushing and pulling at a constant speed. You're gonna get false data if you push or pull too slowly or too quickly. Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, one load is only about 0.2 newtons. So that's only 2 marks, because the thing goes to 5 newtons total, so it's 0.2, so it's only 2 little tick marks. So just something to bring out, and you may want to demo to them how to actually start reading it.
1.2.
You definitely need some surfaces that will cause a lot of friction if you want to see a true difference or to compare the 2 surfaces that you're going to have. And you can have not just 2, but you can have like up to 6 or whatever, so that different groups can have different surfaces to compare.
So what
with.
you guys did, the cardboard, which you didn't find was different.
Right.
No, when it's
I had
too
nice
smooth
cardboard.
of a
But sandpaper is a good one,
Sandpaper,
and different grades.
carpet, or the concrete outside.
Concrete outside's a good idea. I was gonna say, or you just bring in one of those, your entrance mats, you know, that you
Welcome
might
mats.
have. Or something.
And here's one that will totally throw them off. It feels smooth, but it totally sticks if you do it on a piece of plexiglass.
There you go.
Yeah.
I was even thinking wax paper, aluminum foil, you know, don't go out and buy something. Try to just use something that you may have at home or in the school. You ask an engineer, they might have sandpaper.
Yeah, but we did find that the spring scales are really hard to read, so smoother surfaces, you really don't get much of a reading at all, and so we can see that as being a difficulty for the kids, because we had a hard time reading it, so we would recommend rougher surfaces so they can get a bigger.
And you had a good idea too, Mallory, having one student, just all they're doing is watching how much difference there is. So that's their role that day.
I agree.
The reader, the watcher.
The reader, and then switch roles when you do a different surface. So maybe each group could do 3 surfaces or 2 surfaces and have 2 readers and they could
Oh,
compare.
that was the other suggestion too, with the tape.
The tape, tape off the area so they're not pushing like not far enough or less, just trying to tape off an area so they only do it that distance.
And to have whoever's the pusher should be the pusher for all their trials so that their speed stays constant, because you want it to be
Good.
That's in our notes.
yes it is.
Good job.
Nice. All right.
What resources, what materials do they have for that one? What type of services do they provide in the?
The only surface we provide is that black one I showed you. But then they just recommend try to use things that are already in your classroom if you can. You know, but if you can't, then they make suggestions.
If you need some other hey, I totally forgot what the suggestions were, just email me and
It's on the little cheat sheet. It said sandpaper material like felt is good.
Yeah, it's on our cheat sheet to implement. Gotcha.
And you've got different levels of sandpaper. We did 2 different types of sandpaper one year.
That's even better.
And just real quick for ours, I know you'll have to go, but ours you just need a little room. Make sure you have space for a large cart to move. And most of it's conceptual, and just make sure they understand the forces cancel out, and whichever direction is the greater force is the way the object to move.
I know they don't use that word, but balance and unbalanced forces when you're doing the sum in this direction plus the sum in the opposite or as opposed to sum in the opposite direction, that kind of gets to them with the math.
And they get the
I
force
think like you said, the
diagrams.
pushing and pulling, because on one student's pushing and one's pulling, and that's 900 newtons to the right, but the student pushing to the left is going 1,000.
Right.
So even though you have two going this way, the one going to the left.
So
is more.
then what does that mean? That it will move because it's not balanced, and which direction will it move? And then the other
That's
thing,
the hardest
the
one.
conventions is, what's that?
You're gonna put in Newton's laws in there.
The third law.
Just the
Just the
third,
third.
yeah. So so then the idea is the positive and negative is like you can do it whichever way. It doesn't really matter.
I just draw an arrow.
But
and then
most
put the
people do it
amount
based on the
going
number
around.
line,
Yeah,
and that's fine.
right. So I did max
Right, and
direction.
it's fine, you know, but honestly, you could switch the negative and the positive, it doesn't matter, but I keep it consistent with students and follow the number line.
It's negative and positive with 8th grade.
Right, exactly,
Make the
that's,
physics all use
that's
that.
what I'm saying, you don't need to go there and say that.
Yeah,
So-
we just used arrows.
Absolutely,
And then whichever
yeah.
side had the greatest.
And then you'll
Portfolio.
do some other forces and things like that.
Okay.
Shannon's already uploaded some of those for them to practice with, yeah, so.
All right, and then
that's it.
automatically save. We're good.
Oh, you're
Yeah,
automatically
automatically
saved.
saved. And then I'm gonna I'm gonna copy that document and put it into the 1.2 folder
Awesome.
and the 1.3 folder because I had to wait until I refilled it in before I copied it into the other ones, or I wouldn't have.
And then if you have comments on that, you got the Google, did you
And
give
when is
them,
our next one?
did you give them the Google Doc on
Yes.
this one?
I'm not put, cause it's on my computer.
So when
I'll
you
put that-
do, you know, there's a place to add comments
Yeah, no,
then-
February 6th is our
or
next.
suggestions, however
meeting.
you wanna look at it. If you don't and it works, cause then for investigation 3, I can make adjustments.
I'm all over down.
Alright, have fun.
That's
Are
yours?
all of these yours?
No, half of it stays here. It's one box and 2 of the little ones.
I was missing, I only got 15 of the electromagnetic force textbooks.
I'm gonna get
Yeah,
the big
she
box
did
later.
that.
Huh?
Should I do that?
Yeah.
Get the big one like next
Yeah.
time?
The shy
That's
one
Friday,
box.
is it?
Yeah, I'll double check.